President Trump has suddenly changed his tune on the war in Ukraine, and the new narrative makes no sense. Remember when he gave Zelensky a spanking in the White House and told him he needs to stand down and agree to peace terms? Well, now he met with Zelensky after his speech at the United Nations, and then the White House posted this: "We're buds. We love him. He's a brave man, putting up a hell of a fight," he says. Who the heck is he talking about? Zelensky? The coward of Kiev who's enriched himself and led to millions of Ukrainians dead? He's brave? Okay. He went on to say this. Basically, Ukraine is great. Russia's economy is terrible, and Ukraine can win. Not only win the war, but win back all its territory. That's fantasy. Look at the map
I'm
right
living in
now.
a bizarro world.
I know. This is the map of all the land that the Russians had taken since the war began. There's no way Ukraine can put that back, but okay. But maybe, just maybe, President Trump is playing games. Take a look again at who he says will help Ukraine win this war. Pointedly not the United States. He's saying Europe and NATO. Is this his way of patting them on the head and saying, you think you can win this war? Good luck with that. All my blessings. Go right ahead. Maybe. Joining us to discuss is floor-time combat veteran Colonel Daniel Davis. He's the host of the Daniel Davis Deep Dive on YouTube. Thank you for joining us.
Colonel, great to see you.
What do you think? Is this a sleight of hand, or has Trump lost his marbles and forgot that Zelensky's a bad guy?
I've been trying to figure this out really ever since yesterday when this first happened. It actually happened while I was on the air on a different show, and I had to break in to talk about this because I just couldn't believe what I was reading at first. But the more I've thought about it, the more I'm thinking this is just an elaborate Trumpian way to pass the buck. Because, yeah, he used those like he does so many times to try to get the maximum PR value, the maximum media shock value. And he did, because he says Ukraine can win the war. They can go back to the 1991 borders, which, goes back to a lot of the things that Zelensky said in the first about year and a half before reality really set in. And so now Trump says that. But then, as you correctly point out, you look at the substance of what he said, and he said that Europe can actually do a lot of this stuff, and that, we'll keep selling you some additional stuff. And it's kind of limited, about $1 billion a month, which sounds a lot to a normal person, but in terms of this, in comparison, the last thing that Biden did on the way out the door in 2024 was $61 billion, which by itself made it made no difference in the outcome. So about 1/10 of that spread out over a year is obviously going to have no impact either. And when you also look at the fact that Trump said, this is something that Russia's economy is falling apart, that I now understand this, better than I did before. I couldn't help but remember candidate Trump in 2023 emphatically saying, I understand this war. I understand Zelensky and I understand Putin. This will be easy. That's literally verbatim what he said. This will be easy. It's not even hard. And I know all the factors, et cetera. Well, now that I'm asking now that you've been in office for whatever it is, 8 or 9 months now, and instead of ending the war in a day like you promised, now that you're just saying, all right, forget about ending the war, I'm not even going to try to do that. Just here's $1 billion a month of stuff that you can purchase from me, and good luck to y'all. I mean, what happened to the peace president, the guy that's going to bring peace to all this and claiming that he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize and all this kind of stuff when he hasn't produced anything on the ones that are actually on his watch? So it's bizarre to the extreme, but I think that's the bottom line, is he's just looking for a way to get out and not blame him by saying, I did everything I could. It's up to them to try to figure it out from here.
I want to be respectful of your time, Colonel. I know you've got another interview coming up here. How much time do you have left with us so I don't suck up your time?
I could probably go another 7 or 8 minutes.
Okay, good.
We'll take it.
I'll take 6.5 of that. So we just got word Russian troops have advanced on a key Donbass town, according to the Ministry of Defense. This is on the Russian side. The village of Kirovsk has been liberated in a rapid strike, according to the Ministry of Defense. Now that's going to lead them to taking another town. These dominoes continue to fall. The Ukrainian military is collapsing. So what sort of help are they playing out here? Russia seems to suggest that if NATO gets involved, he's not suggesting, Putin has said this, if NATO gets involved, they will be considered part of the Ukrainian army and legitimate targets here. Is that where we're heading, or do you think we're going to screech the tires, full stop, we're going to get to a peace talk anytime soon?
No, we're not going to get to a peace talk anytime soon, but there is no way that European troops are going to be sent into harm's way. I mean, if they're not going to fight for Ukraine in now over 3.5 years, this war's been going on, they certainly aren't going to start now when it's in the death throes and it's in the final, probably the end state in the game here. And, you know, you can see on the front line here, you talked about that one small village here. Well, Ukraine, about 24 hours ago, actually was making some pretty good progress north of Pokrovsk to actually potentially cut off one of the expenditures of one of Russian advances, and actually are putting it at real risk. That's because they moved people from a different part of the front and to bring more reinforcements onto that part north of Pokrovsk. Well, that came at a cost because where they pull those troops from in the Liman area, then Russia accelerated its advance in that area. They've accelerated into Kupiansk, and now that they're deep into the city, in fact, even to the city center in some other places, and in the south in Zaporizhia, they're continuing to go on forward there. So Ukraine just doesn't have enough men to cover the front. And even though they're making this progress in Pokrovsk, that may be great as far as it goes on the tactical of it, but like all these other tactical advances they make, they come temporary because Russia has more than enough men to restore that and then to end up taking it back from it. Meanwhile, everywhere you pull a reinforcement away from it to catch this one hole in the dike, then Russia takes advantage of that one as well. The bottom line is, and Sersky said that the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian armed forces, that they have anywhere between a 3 and 6 time deficit in personnel and logistics all across the line of the front. And you can't replace that. And Russia continues to accelerate, and they get larger because they're recruiting, not force mobilizing, but recruiting more people per month than they're losing. So they have now formed a strategic reserve somewhere around 300,000 people on top of the about 700,000 people that are in Ukraine. Everywhere you want to count it, this thing is going south. So when you look at all of that in light of what Trump has said here, it becomes even more bizarre. Who cares if you want to go back to the 1991 borders? It matters what you can do and what you can't do. And there is no capacity for Ukraine to magically start going to the 1991 borders when they have failed over the last 3.5 years. So that's why I circle back around to saying I think that Trump is just using splashy language and putting this onus on Europe and on Zelensky, patting him on the back and saying, good luck to you, but we're not going to fight for you.
Right. And so then Europe will have to fake their way out of it. Like, we gave it our best. Oh, what's that over there? I mean, that's the only way that Europe can do this. They can't actually mount a defense and get behind Zelensky, can they? Can you fake a war?
No, the only thing that, because they don't have, I mean, if you look at, there was an analysis done on Sky News about 3 weeks ago about in the event that this coalition of the willing or this reassurance force, if they could come to a negotiated settlement, would be European troops to man this demilitarized zone they were talking about a 20-kilometer zone. Well, this analysis said you'd probably need about 300,000 troops to patrol that huge thing, over 1,000 kilometers. And he says France and UK alone might be able to come up with 20% if they used all of their deployable forces to go in. Well, they're not going to do that. And then that leaves 80% of the rest, and no one else is signing up to do that. That's for a so-called peacekeeping mission. There is no capacity to actually get into a conventional war with Russia. Russia is well aware of this. That's why Sergei Markov, who's apparently a confidant of Putin, said that they considered this a joke. They thought it was laughable, and they're not concerned about this at all because they know the reality on the ground, and they're continuing forward. It's the Ukraine side and the European side which seems to be in fiction land. And I just don't know where this can go because the factors on the ground will trump spin, and you can claim whatever you want, but as it's been for this whole war, the reality on the ground imposes itself and destroys the Ukrainian armed forces in these large numbers you just mentioned, and that's going to continue on until at some point the fabric of the Ukraine forces just can't sustain itself, and you have a collapse of the front. I don't know when that'll come, but it's nearly inevitable.
Yeah, there's been nonstop propaganda from the beginning of this thing. We've been trying to break through it. We got banned for it. YouTube censored us for it. But, again, they try to spin these lies about how Ukraine is winning. They're crushing. Everything's going great. Adam Kinzinger even made a post the other day saying this is why Ukraine is winning. He did a whole video post about how Ukraine is winning. Like, I think the guy is literally on drugs. They're all delusional, and they're trying to sell you a fake war. That's not going to happen. Colonel Daniel Davis, I know you got to run. I said 6 minutes, but I think I took 5 minutes of your time. Thank you so much, as always, for being here. We really appreciate it, Colonel.
And subscribe to the Daniel Davis Deep Dive on YouTube.
Yeah, it's a great show. Thank you, Colonel.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Always a pleasure to be on your show. Thank you.